calculate the target coordinates and redirect the missile.
I saw the missile go by on the right side and explode. It's hard to judge distance at altitude because there's no reference. So I'm guessing that the missile was probably within a mile and a half of the aircraft.
I was a little close.
At Mach 3, that's equivalent to just 2 seconds from impact.
I actually felt pretty relieved when we got on the ground that nothing else happened.
Just as Kelly Johnson had predicted, even when it is detected, the Blackbird proves just too fast to catch. The Soviets even developed the MiG-25 jet fighter to bring it down. But not a single SR-71 is ever lost to enemy fire. An unmatched record.
I'm prejudiced, obviously, since I flew it, but I think it's probably one of the greatest airplanes ever built. It's the world's fastest. It holds all the speed records. It goes higher than any other airplane in the world. It flew across the entire United States in 64 minutes. The SR-71 was developed for a need, and that need arose when Gary Powers got shot down in the U-2.
Secret reconnaissance of Russia by high-flying American U-2 jets ended when one was downed deep in Soviet territory.
The United States said an airplane that would go higher and faster than the U-2 and be totally invulnerable to enemy defenses. If you add up the number of people who have flown it on operational reconnaissance missions only, you'll come up with 86 pilots total.
This mission is classified secret.
The day before the mission, the primary crew, which is a pilot and a navigator, would meet at the mission planning. The mission planners would have all your computer flight plans laid out on a table, and for the next 2-3 hours, you would go through the entire route of flight. If we had MiGs come up, if we had SAMs fired at us, if we had an engine flame out, what we would do along the entire route of flight. Any plane that goes above 50,000 feet, you have to be in a pressure suit. The higher you go in altitude, the lower the boiling point becomes of fluids. Your eyes, your nose, your mouth, and your ears, where there's any kind of moisture whatsoever, that'll be the first place to start boiling real rapidly. So that is why we wear a pressure suit. It saves your life. When the cockpits are all set up and ready for you to go, they give you a thumbs up. You walk up the steps, crawl into the seat, and then from then on, you let the physiological support people who do our pressure suits, they make all the matings to the ejection seat. Your life is in their hands because with the pressure suit on, you cannot see any of these connections whatsoever. An average mission was probably 3.5 to 4 hours. Each engine puts out thrust 34,000 pounds, so you have a total of 68,000 pounds of thrust coming out both engines. Those pointy things in front of each engine, those are called the spikes. Those spikes retract back into the inlet the faster and faster you go. And what it's doing is capturing the shock wave right at the very pointy tip of it that reaccelerates it at the back. When you're cruising at Mach 3.2, those engines are putting out 20% of the thrust. The inlets are putting out the other 80% of the thrust. The altitude we flew at was anywhere between 70 to 85,000 feet. If you look out one window to the front cockpit to the other side, you can see a very definitive curvature of the Earth, very bright in the day and very dark at night. From about 45 degrees above the horizon, the stars are out in the daytime. And one of the sensors we had was an optical camera, which we called our technical objective cameras. They could get down to a resolution from 80,000 feet to about 3 to 4 inches resolution. We went up to Murmansk and Vladivostok. When we imaged them, they could tell exactly what nuclear subs were there, where the carriers were at each of the ports all the time. This airplane is on the leading edge of stealth technology. The airplane is very smooth underneath. There's no edges or jagged places to get a good radar return from. Black tends to absorb radar rather than bounce it. The paint has very minute particles of iron inside of it, and that tends to absorb, suck up the radar rather than attenuate it back down to the ground. We fly the airplane. Now I park the airplane, I shut down the engines, I go to debriefing. Now our intel folks, they work all through the night getting this image processed and get the intelligence out to the right folks. So there's a lot of people before you fly it, a lot of people working while you're flying it, and then a lot of people after you fly it. There was a lot of politics in retiring the SR. Satellites were getting better. Their photography as well as radar imaging was getting better. The leadership of the Air Force then was not very enamored with an airplane that didn't carry bombs or missiles or guns, and that's why the SR retired. It's sad to see the SRs on the ground when I know they could still be flying and doing a job. There's not many countries today that we couldn't still fly over with unimpeded. But to bring back all those sole source vendors for the special fuel, the special oil, the special hydraulic fluid, the tires, you can't find those vendors anymore. They were one-of-a-kind vendors. So it would be a monumental task to bring one back and to fly.
The Lockheed Skunk Works, California. Generations of deep black aircraft were built here. In recent years, its parking lot has remained full. Yet officially, it has little work underway. Too little to explain all the activity. Production of its Blackbird spy plane is long finished. Its last contract was for the stealth fighter. That is near completion. It cannot explain the work being done behind closed doors. Is a new, deep black triangular aircraft being built? Aviation experts suspect that the answer lies in a 1985 Pentagon document. A mysterious aircraft codenamed Aurora Project was accidentally included alongside budgets for the U-2 and Blackbird spy planes. There has been no mention of it since.
The first thing I heard about Aurora was that air traffic controllers out on the West Coast were being told to expect very high-speed targets on their radar screens, that it was a classified program, that they weren't to panic and they weren't to report it to anybody else. The next piece of information, and the one that I think really started me investigating the Aurora story, was a sequence of sonic booms over California.
On Thursday, June 18th, 1992, at 7 in the morning, and on 6 other Thursdays at the same hour in the preceding year, there was a minor tremor in Los Angeles. Spurred on by telephone calls from worried residents, Jim Morey of the U.S. Geological Survey set out to discover what was causing this unusually punctual earthquake. At his disposal is a network of seismic recording stations. He quickly established that it was a double sonic boom from a supersonic aircraft. Morey compared the signature of the aircraft's sonic boom with the patterns produced by those of the space shuttle landing outside of Los Angeles and by the SR-71 Blackbird on its world speed record transcontinental flight in 1991. It was completely different. The size and spread of the boom was unique.
We actually have quite a few sonic booms in Southern California. One of the reasons is that the space shuttle lands at Edwards Air Force Base, which is in the desert here. It's possible to tell the direction, the speed, and the height of the object that's producing the sonic boom if you have good instrumental recording. So for these mystery booms that we saw, it's clear that they are flying offshore. Because we don't have any stations there, we don't have very much data, so we really couldn't get an accurate estimate of how fast that particular object was traveling. All we can really say is it was traveling faster than the speed of sound. And one other possibility is that it could be meteorite, and there are instances of meteorites producing similar booms. Obviously, though, a meteorite happening every Thursday morning seems a little unlikely.
The official explanation was that U.S. Navy fighters were responsible, but few experts were convinced. The breakthrough came when Bill Sweetman received an eyewitness drawing of what he felt could only be the aurora.
I'd written a couple of aurora stories suggesting that the evidence was accumulating that something was out there. And I received in the mail a sketch and a note from a man named Chris Gibson.
This eyewitness is one of the best in the business. Chris Gibson was a member of Britain's Royal Observer Corps. He was part of their elite international recognition team, one of the top military aircraft observers in the world. One day, in 1989, while working on an oil rig in the North Sea, a colleague called Chris outside.
There was a formation of 4 aircraft. The lead aircraft was a KC-135 Stratotanker, and off its port side were 2 F-111 fighter bombers. Off the tail of the KC-135 Stratotanker was a black triangular aircraft. No wings, no tail, a perfect triangle. And there's nothing that I've ever seen before looked like that, which was an unusual occurrence because I'm trained in instant recognition by the Royal Observer Corps. And if I didn't know what it was, it's not in any books.
This shape and the sonic booms told Bill Sweetman a great deal.
If you're looking at an aircraft that is designed to fly at what's loosely called hypersonic speeds, that's 5 or 6 times the speed of sound or upwards, there are several things that become absolutely essential. One is that you require a very high degree of sweepback on the wing leading edges. Otherwise, you start getting into severe problems of drag and aerodynamic heating. As you go into this very slender shape, you still need to have a lot of volume in that shape for fuel, for propulsion, for crew. And the best way to provide that is to blend the wing and the body together. You get a very characteristic, highly blended triangular shape, which is, in plan view, identical to what Chris saw.
In Amarillo, Texas, Steve Douglas may have captured photographic evidence of the aurora. He maintains sophisticated military signals monitoring equipment in his home.
I think it was March 23rd, 1992. I was back here in my office when the house was shook by what sounded like a large sonic boom. Sonic boom before, so I know how they sound, but this one seemed to continue. It wasn't just a crack boom and left. It was a rather large shudder that you could feel in your chest, and the windows vibrated.
Recently, a series of sonic booms were heard exploding across California and Nevada. Something was in the sky that could be heard and felt, but not seen. Some informed observers, and I'm one of them, believe it was an aircraft traveling at several thousand miles per hour, a secret project known as Aurora. There is no trace of Aurora's physical existence, no evidence of government spending on its development or deployment. But there are tantalizing images that point to its existence. Pictures, for example, like this one. It shows a donut-shaped exhaust pattern, a sign perhaps that Aurora makes use of something called a pulse detonation wave engine. And it delivers a hell of a punch, easily enough power to drive an aircraft to 6 times the speed of sound. But perhaps the most intriguing are these images. This is a weather satellite image that shows a very interesting contrail originating out of Area 51 in Nevada and moving all the way across the United States, out over the Atlantic, on across Europe, and into Russia and China. Whatever it is, it's moving in excess of 8,000 miles an hour. If it is the
RV, this is NASA 2. You are go for internal power and bit on your mark.
Actuator bit on my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark. I show good bit. sweep now.
Attention all stations, we'll be at L-1 on my mark. 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. 1 minute.
T-minus 1 minute, T-minus 1 minute.
008, you've got arm switch and light.
System is armed, I have the lights.
NASA 2, systems has navigate.
NASA 2, this is LVS. LV is on condition, fin sweep is nominal, we are go for launch.
Thirty seconds, 30 seconds. And all stations, we are a go for launch at this time. 10 seconds. Launch on my mark.
Roger.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch, launch, launch.
Sequencer reset.
It launched.
Ignition.
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 Guidance on, we are supersonic.
Supersonic.
Attitudes remain nominal. Motor pressure is nominal. Attitude is nominal.
4-6, clear the bomber.
We have coolant on, we are through Mach 3.
We are past Mach 3. Attitudes are nominal.
We are negative alpha.
We are negative alpha at this point.
Attitude is nominal.
Attitude is nominal.
T alpha. PSS disable.
Yeah, burnout.
Ready to SEP.
Ready to SEP.
SEP.
Separation.
Separation.
Cal open.
Cal is open.
Fuel on.
Fuel is on.
RV is stable.
RV is stable at this time.
Fuel off.
Fuel is off.
PID is active.
PID is active.
PID is complete and Cal is closed.
PID complete. Cal closed. Seconds. Launch on my mark.
Roger.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Launch, launch, launch.
Sequencer reset.
launched.
Ignition.
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 Guidance on. We are supersonic.
Supersonic.
Attitudes remain nominal.
Formidable!
Between the wheels and the track. The solution is to take both these factors out of the equation. It sounds like science fiction, but trains that do just that really exist. And they're called maglev, which stands for
magnetically levitating trains. There are no overhead power cables because the power source is built into the track. There's no friction from the wheels because, well, there aren't any wheels. The train is designed to float 10 millimeters above the track, so the only resistance it has is air resistance, which makes this train fast. Very fast.
Here at the Transrapid test track in northern Germany, they're testing a technology that they hope has the potential to take over where the TGV meets its limits, with enough speed, not just for intercity, but for intercontinental travel. But like so many record-breaking trains of the past, not one, but two rival operations have been battling it out to turn this technology into the world's fastest passenger service. The German Transrapid system and the Japanese JR Maglev.
Maglev trains are all about magnets, and magnets have two poles, north and south. And when the facing poles of each magnet are the same, like in this instance north, north, they repel, like so. The Japanese JR Maglev system uses this force to lift their trains.
Magnets on the train face magnets with similar poles on the track, and the train rests on the repulsive force as if it's sitting on an invisible cushion,
like so.
Japanese maglev trains have reached speeds in excess of 580 kilometers an hour using this system, but the technology is still confined to the test track. They've never managed to turn it into a commercially viable passenger train. While the Japanese system uses the repulsive force of magnets, the German system makes use of attraction.
But it's no use having the train sticking to the tracks. The trick to hovering is to use electromagnets. Now, an electromagnet is just a piece of metal with wire coiled round it, like so. And when you put some current through that wire, like this, it's attracted like so. When you switch that current off, it drops. Attract, drop, and so on.
And if you were to switch your electromagnet on and off fast enough, like this device does automatically, you can defeat gravity, attracting and dropping so quickly that metal objects like my toy train here appear to hover.
Incredible. I don't know about you, but I think that's pretty damn amazing. And that's magic. The Transrapid has massive electromagnets in here that sit under the track. And when the power is switched on, power on, bitte. The magnets are attracted to the track, and now the train, the whole train, is floating in midair 10 millimeters above the track with magnets at the side here to keep it steady.
A completely separate system of magnets built into the test track create a moving magnet.
那上了大概有多长时间呢？那天晚上？
最多1个小时都没有，就算偶尔来一下，他都不会上那么久的啊，就最多2個小時、1個小時這樣。
就攤喺張凳嗰度，個頭咧就昂喺個靠背嗰度，咁個鼻哥入邊流到好多嘅嗰啲鼻涕，啊，成個面都係，包括胸口都黐滿晒，冇任何反應嘅。當時問佢叫乜名啊？幾時嚟上網㗎？咩回事㗎？全部冇任何反應，唔識出聲嘅。